contact me. And you don't have to even be a member of a student group, although normally that's kind of where it comes from. But if you're interested in a certain topic that's out there, contact me and we can set you up for the fall maybe, right? So that's a little bit about the event in terms of what we're going to be doing. So I've given you 2 different articles, right, on the same topic. How many of you, before walking in this room, had heard of President Obama's proposal to offer free community college in the United States? So some of you hadn't really heard about it, right? And it's been in the headlines for, when did he come out with that? Was it a week ago, 2 weeks?
2 weeks ago.
Something like that, right? What he did is I combed the headlines of two major papers in the United States. We have the New York Times and the Wall Street Journal. Anyone want to give me kind of a big difference between the two in terms of how they look at things, their perspective, their bias? Which one is considered the more liberal paper? The New York Times. And which one the more conservative paper? The Wall Street Journal, right? But I did something weird. You'll notice that the more critical article comes from who? David Brooks of the New York Times, because he's their token conservative. And the more kind of neutral, or maybe even you saw it as positive, article comes from the Wall Street Journal. That's just to say that it's not always the case that these papers have that leanings. But I will say this, there's another difference in the articles other than where they came from. And that has to do with the type of article. Can anyone tell me the difference in terms of what type of article it is? Is one a little bit more opinionated than the other? Yes. Oh, you got that part, right? That's because it comes from the opinion section of the New York Times, right? And both papers have that opinion section. And they are allowed to be opinionated. They don't have to be neutral. Just the fact. No, they can put their, and that's the point of the editorial page and also the op-eds, right? Which is what you're reading from David Brooks. The other article is just simply an article that you would pick up the paper. So here's today's Wall Street Journal, and you're going to read it. And they try, not always successfully, but they try to be neutral or less opinionated. Although, as you may know, it's hard to write on something and not kind of have your opinion seep in. But that's the difference in terms of types of articles, right? One is from the opinion page, and one is from actually the front pages, right? Okay, so what do y'all think? First of all, what's the plan? Can somebody kind of outline the plan, the basics of the plan? What'd you read?
Just to cover the college for the first 2 years.
Okay.
Just make it free.
Free community college,
Yeah.
right? For the first 2 years, right? What else about the plan did it say?
The students going to these community colleges had to keep a certain GPA and had to go there a certain amount of time per semester.
Okay, so requirements that make students eligible, similar to like getting financial aid. Certain GPA, meet certain basic requirements, right? What else? Is that it? Might be. You think so? Here's the issue. Obama has talked about this idea. He's put it out there, right? Hasn't really given us yet a specific plan in terms of much more than what we just said, right? So what do you think about it? Good idea? Bad idea? So let me just remind you guys, as voting citizens, have to decide whether you think these proposals are good or not, right? What do you guys want for your country moving forward? Perhaps if you're thinking about having children, what do you want for your children, right?
I think this is a good idea for education because everybody needed that. And I mentioned here, they said that he needed good skills also.
Okay.
For the.
So good for people, but good for the overall economy. economy too.
Yeah.
What else? In the back, sorry.
I have a question. So, although I think it would be a good idea if community college was free, wouldn't the government have to compensate elsewhere in the budget for making it free?
I'm gonna throw that out to y'all. Somebody comment on that.
Yeah, that makes sense. Usually because nothing's ever free in life, money has to come from somewhere. And so obviously it's gonna, usually the government's gonna have to take a pool of some cash from somewhere, whatever they're gonna do, so.
More taxes.
Taxes, it might, I don't know how that's gonna affect taxes for us or whatever, raising taxes, whatever, but yeah, that money's gonna obviously have to come from the government. And
Yeah, has to come from somewhere, right? It can come from two places. You can start a new program and raise money for it by doing two different things. What are they? Back in the way.
Now, guys, keep this in mind, okay? Once you graduate with your degree, you will have a higher paying job. And once your income goes up, what else do? You pay more tax. So this, even though it is $20 billion every year, but the money will be coming from somewhere. And this somewhere will be your supposedly increased income tax. So it's not like an extra more tax from the population. It's just because you make more income, therefore pay more tax, and those extra tax revenue will be enough to pay for this free education.
There's another way that you can pay from it without increasing taxes. What is it?
Donation to the government.
What's that?
Donations.
Donations. Yeah, that'd be nice. But yeah, I don't think that's probably going to get us where we need to be. So you have this budget. You want a new program. You can raise taxes to pay for it, or what?
Make cuts.
Make cuts. Figure out, okay, where are we prioritizing? What is there something that we want to, cut in order to fund that? I mean, I'm just saying this is not all worked out. It's not in the plan, but the idea is that government revenue might increase to offset that cost. Taxes might go up to offset that cost, or cuts in other programs to offset that cost. Okay. A lot of different ways you can kind of tackle the idea.
There's another thing in the second article, how it discussed how it's a bad thing that if college was free, because they say that those that go to college for free would most likely have a higher dropout rate. And say from a student that's just coming from high school and they had lots of bad habits that could carry over, and those habits would carry over into their college life. So they're most likely, not saying that they will, but most likely could fail classes and just leave or whatever, because it's free, I don't have to worry about myself as much as whereas paying for your classes, because it's your responsibility. You don't want to put that money to waste, because this is all coming from you. But when someone else provides it for you, it's you don't want to take, most likely you wouldn't want to take the initiative to do what you can while it's still free in the meantime.
Okay, good point. So looking at that second article that was somewhat critical, right? Hopefully, if you read that article, he's criticizing this program, but in a certain way, and in a way that's really relevant to you guys. What is hardest for you guys? Coming up with that tuition, which I don't know, what is Lone Star run, about $1,000 for a full-time, yeah? Or coming up with, how am I going to work and go to school and pay my bills and have someone watch my kids? I mean,
That's the hard part.
which is the hard part? I mean, I'm just asking. I think they're both hard, but
Yeah,
why is it, and here's what the critique is, why are most students not completing community their degrees?
All that.
Yeah, good, Charlotte, yeah.
I think a lot of it has to do with you appreciate things more whenever you actually have to pay for them because you worked so hard for that. So in a way, it makes you want to go to college and do your best because you paid a lot of money that you worked hard for to do.
Yeah, so you agree with the gentleman, I'm sorry I didn't get your name. What's your name there in the red shirt?
Caleb?
Okay, and you agree with him that Yeah, that it's about valuing something that you contribute to financially.
Yeah, I don't say it's a bad thing to have college for free, but it's just that people that I didn't really think of this out.
Hey, that's okay. We're not on C-SPAN.
Yeah, I can just move on. I kind of like lost myself.
No, I mean, no, this is a process of talking it all out. It's a very complicated. Just a minute.
I'm saying it's a good thing. It just has pros and cons. Because yeah, there'll be the people that will have the higher dropout rate because it's free, and then those that are probably already in college, and then those that are going to college. Like you have, there's the two sides. There's your good student and there's your bad student. Not this like horrible, but it can there's your students that have that work their butts off for their grades and stuff, and then there's some that kind of they put some effort, but I mean it's not always going to come through all the time because no one's perfect. Like, oh my gosh, I'm failing this.
No, I think your point is that it's a complicated issue and it's not black and white, right?
Yeah,
there are some really good aspects of this idea, but they're not free, as you said, right? And I'm sorry, you had a comment.
I was thinking that the one strong consideration would be how much money every year is spent by former students paying back their loans that could otherwise be spent on other parts of the economy. Is that productive? Also, I mean, you might appreciate something more if it's free, but you're also picking your own classes in college, so it's not just, hey, I'm paying for this, I should make the most of it. It's, what am I interested in? And you actually make those choices. So you choose what you're interested in, not, I take whatever high school class, back in high school, you just pick whatever classes, or you didn't pick, you just got those classes. So you didn't really care because you didn't have anything to do with the decision to do those classes. You're just doing what you're told.
Right. And your choices, and I think that's an excellent point. Having paid off some student loans myself, I would have much rather have gone out and shopped at the mall, right? That money going to pay all that student loan debt could actually stimulate the economy in terms of spending it elsewhere. Interesting idea, yeah. Here, then here, then here.
I mean, the way that the second article talked, they talked like, okay, we can either make community college free for 2 years, or we can do all these other things with that money to lower the dropout rate. And if President Obama's idea on this free community college is to increase the more educated workforce, then wouldn't lowering the dropout rate of the students already going to community college make that a more effective way?
You have just provided an excellent summary of David Brooks's argument there, right?
Yeah.
That, were y'all shocked, by the way, to see, what did he say the dropout rate, how many people actually complete their degrees in community colleges?
It's like less than a third.
Yeah, 1 in 5 or less than a third, somewhere in the really low range. Are y'all shocked at that? I shocked when I heard that, and I think I may have already been working. When I heard that, I was like, what? Only 20% of community college students actually graduate? How can that be? Did that shock people?
Right.
I hate to do this, but look around the room. That's a scary thought, right? In this room, it's not.
But I think that this is according to the studies put in this number. It should be like an accurate number for the dropping, and according to the studies.
There are enough studies about that to suggest that the rate is abysmally low. Yeah. And so I would say, even if that's not this one step, there's enough evidence out there to suggest here and then in the back.
I was just going to say, I think there are probably more reasons that people drop out to other than it just being free and so they don't care about it. I'm sure there are people like that, but I also think there are people who it might depend on age and life experience. If they have children, whether young, if they have young children, if they are young and they have children, it can make it very, very difficult to go back because you've got childcare to worry about and you've got all these expenses. So I think it's not fair to say that if you give people free tuition, they're not going to do it because they don't appreciate it. I think that can be true, but I think there are lots of other reasons also that things that might play into that.
And thanks for your patience. You can.
I was just gonna ask, how would that affect students that already been in college for 2 years plus, and will it like pass over to, yeah, will we get
My
into-
uncle in Ireland sent 4 kids through college. When the year his last graduated, guess what Ireland did? Free tuition. And did he get a refund? No. So I suspect that you guys, if something like this is implemented, may not be able to take advantage of it. Yes.
Like along with that, he said how like people in high school have bad habits and that could roll over into college. And how the person in the second article, I believe, was saying like about financial aid. I don't think that 2 years of free college should just be given. Like I feel like there are certain requirements that should be met. Like financial aid, you have to have a certain amount of income or something. For free tuition, you should probably have like a certain amount, like a certain GPA, like in high school to roll over. And it shouldn't necessarily be 2 years. Like if someone, for say, like didn't have good grades in high school and they were like wanting to change that, they could be offered like 1 year of free community college, and if they show that they can progress and they can like complete 2 years, then they should be granted a second year.
Did y'all hear that back there? Interesting idea that there'd be, like, if you're a graduating senior, in order to motivate you to take advantage of it, you would have to have a certain GPA, right? And then if you didn't have that GPA, then they would grant you like a 1 year kind of trial. If you did well, then you could get something like that?
Yeah.
Yeah, what do y'all think about that? See, heads nodding.
I'll say this, if you based what you knew about me on my high school GPA, you would have a really inaccurate picture of my intellectual ability. I'll just throw that out there.
Yeah, you might have a lot less guys.
I know students who, boy, they found their intellectual ability, and they always had it, but they found it in college. Because they lost it somewhere in high school and it's gone for a while. But they found it, and that's the beauty of our system, is that you can really mess up in high school and get a fresh start. At a maybe not at Harvard, but at a community college you can, and then you might end up at Harvard. Yeah, and
Or we can go a step further.
Professor.
Sure, we can, let's say that for every single student coming to community college, we let them pay for it first, and then by the end of the semester, we look at the GPA. If it's high enough, then we reimburse the entire amount of tuition. So this way, we're rewarding it for good students, and then for those who's not good students, we don't pay for it.
But if they had the money, wouldn't they pay for it if they had the money up front? That would.
To be a loans available, they can borrow the money first, and then repay the loans later when they finish.
Huh, yeah, that's an interesting idea in terms of,
But that's also a very ethical issue, because now you're giving a lot of power in the hand of the instructors. So now not only can we decide what kind of grade people have, also how much money they have.
so you could essentially erase your debt if you did well. So what you're saying, borrow, but then if you do well, then that's,
That goes away.
it goes away.
I think his idea sounds like a good idea.
Interesting way to fix that problem of people just,
It's a,
getting nothing and then doing nothing and,
I think it's a good step. Like it's not changing too much at once. We're not really giving it everything for free, but we're kind of I guess moving that direction. So I like this idea.
I think the Congress just needs to hand it over to us and we can figure it out. I think this is a good idea, right? You have access to it and it's free if you do well. But if for the people who are worried about that personal responsibility, then those people who aren't going to take advantage of, aren't going to put in the work, of course that doubly burdens them, then they have that debt. But yeah, I mean, that's an interesting idea. Yeah.
Professor Kelly, I know you have a couple of administrators and faculty people here, like Judith and Daniel and the other professor back here, but how many students actually graduate within 2 years in a community college?
idea of the specific number.
I think there's a figure in there.
2 years, it's very low.
It's
Yeah,
low, it's the
very
figure in there
low.
is
So
really low.
they will actually need funding beyond 2 years because the majority of students who come in do not graduate within that 2-year time span.
Yeah.
Wasn't there a 3-year, they would have to complete it, in other words, it's 2 years of community college in actual coursework, but they have an extra year to complete.
Well, I mean, and then that gets into the problem of a 2-year degree is great and it's better than, you know, a high school diploma, but you know, how many people are in here with the hopes of going on, transferring and getting a 4-year degree? Because that's, you know, where the money's at, right? Now, not everybody, because a 2-year kind of technical degree, shoot, I know a lot of people with that make more money than I do if you have a good technical skill. But a lot of people are here to transfer, and those last 2 years are more expensive than the first 2 years if you're going to a community college, right? Let me just remark, as that first article points out, a lot of this is being tried already on a state level. There are lots of states out there right now who are offering incentives, I think, because I have a friend in Louisiana. Anyone from Louisiana? She was telling me that she's got kids in high school, that Louisiana will offer free tuition to one of their state universities for high school students graduating with a 3.0 or above. That kind of shocked me, but that's what she's saying. And I know in Michigan, something similar. And what state, in that article, that first article, what state did they talk about?
Tennessee.
And Tennessee's trying this idea out. Which been, I think what was the reception to this idea? This is the first year, and what happened when they put that out there to high school students who wanted to enroll in high school? Did it go up or down? Dramatically up, right? A dramatic increase in the number of students who, now we don't know how that'll work out, but that said, yes, I'm going.
Well, they said it did boost retention rates from the first year to the second year, so that's progress right there.
Oh yeah, you're right.
And David Brooks says that those who go to school for free have tragically high dropout rates, and that basically here's the thing where sometimes even professional writers can be confusing. The way I read that at first was the Tennessee program was underway, and then that statistic was a result of that. But then I was looking at the end, they said the Tennessee program has not taken effect. I think that that decrease in retention rate, I read it closer, and it's from the mentoring program. I think that's how I'm reading it now. Again, this is an example of journalists not being clear in their writing, but I read it the way you read it, which was that the free tuition caused it, but when I read it, because they said... No, it says the program also supplies a mentor, and then students who start college through the program, so the program is greater than just the mentor, which is just one aspect of it.
Well, yeah, I guess because then later on it says that this is the first year they're offering, so sorry.
What if the tuition, like not entirely free, but what if you, like say if you cut the price down by like 1/3 or something for like entry level students or whatever, or half or something like that. So you would have the people that want to actually put their, because you know how we would value our education by putting our own money towards it. So like if for the students that really want to do something would be the ones that would actually apply for classes and pay for those classes. So it can so they'll have a chance, they'll have more of a chance to come into college, see what it's like, and make up their mind if this is what they really want to do.
A small scholarship instead of a full tuition waiver.
Yeah. Thank you. It'll make money go around in a small way, but also it's like to a level to be affordable for students too. Like it wouldn't be overpriced to some that can't afford it or have to really work their butts off just to pay for those classes.
Did y'all notice the difference in price, by the way, between, well, let's take Lone Star, a Texas school, and some schools in other places? I mean, sometimes community colleges, a full load can cost you $5,000. by the way, if you're not aware, Texas has very cheap higher education compared to a lot of states. Our state schools are cheaper on average. Our community colleges are cheaper. Right? Well, let's kind of sum this up. I want y'all to vote. Who would be, if we were Congress, who would be willing to support some version? I mean, we talked about a lot of different, but who'd be willing to say, okay, let's look at this and drop a plan that might include some of these things that we're talking about, because this is a good idea. How many people? And it's okay if you don't think that, because, you know, that's what the democracy is all about. I see this happening. Are you guys like waiting for the lobbyists to come and give some money or what? Take a stand. Vote yes or no. It looks like we would win, right? So we might have, now let me ask you to predict what's going to happen with this plan moving forward. Obama has made this proposal. If he draws up some kind of plan to operationalize it in order to put it into practice, what do you think Congress is going to, just predict, with the current climate, what you think Congress will do with it? You think it's likely that it'll move forward? How many people think it's likely that it'll move forward? Yeah, that's an interesting idea, eventually. I think because fundamentally people think that this is a good idea, right? But politics gets in the way, right? And moving forward, I think it's going to be hard with a Republican-controlled House and Senate for Obama. I don't mean to be pessimistic, but you already, the article already said, they're all, well, it won't go anywhere, it's a dead, oh, I don't know. But eventually, I think this is a conversation that starts, and it might end 10 years from now, right? Okay, so I promise that you guys can get to your next class if you have one, because I do. I'd let you out of here at 1:15. Thank you for all your wonderful suggestions. You guys have the form. You can keep these if you